Hey guys, Sean here from Alveston Mowers. Today I'd like to talk about chainsaw chain anatomy, basically pointing out the parts and components on a chain and what you need to do in a basic chainsaw sharpen and what you're trying to achieve when doing that to get a well-performing cut, one that cuts well but also has longevity as well in the sharpen. So to start off with, we've got a chainsaw chain here. This is what they call a rapid super or a full chisel chain, which has the 90-degree angle on the top, not rounded off on the side like a semi-chisel. So that's a full chisel chain. So this is the top plate, what we call a top plate, the side plate, the depth gauge, the heel and the toe of the cutter, and the gullet in here. But most importantly, what we look at when we're looking at sharpening a chain is we're looking at the working corner, which is this top corner up here. So when a customer brings a chain in for a sharpen or in the workshop for a service, we have a good look at this edge here and see how far back this is worn or blunted. If that's rounded off and blunt back to here, that's how far we need to file it back to get it back to being square and sharp again. So that's what we're looking at. If it's down this far and we've got to sharpen that much off it, it's beyond sharpening in the cost-effective way. So we're looking at the working corner of that, and then we're looking at the shape of the gullet, which we see a lot of variations in that where people sharpen themselves and not really understanding what they're trying to achieve. What you're trying to achieve is that nice half moon shape, not too deep in the gullet and not too flat. So you've got some angle under your top plate. I've got some drawings here to show you that. So basically what I've done here, so we've got this one here where you can obviously see the file's been too low and it's filing in and giving it a very big, what they call very low in the gullet, leaving a very pointy beak on the top edge there, on the top working corner. If you do sharpen like this, you will find it'll cut well for a few rounds, but it will blunt easily because you haven't got a lot of meat under your top plate there. Other ones we see are when the file is either too big or held up too high and you don't get much gullet at all. It's a very flat edge like that and doesn't give you much angle under your top plate, so it doesn't give you that carving effect. But ideally what you're aiming for is that bottom one there, where you've got that half moon sort of shape, giving you still got plenty of angle under your top plate for the carving effect, but not too skinny either, and it's got that nice half moon shape. So that's what you're trying to achieve, whether you're using a freehand file, a file and a guide, a bench mounted grinder or anything. That's the shape you want to aim for a basic chain sharpen for pretty much Tassie timbers for our hardwood, and that'll give you a nice cut and it'll hold its edge for as long as it can without hitting dirt and things like that. The next thing we talk about, which is some people either pay not enough attention to or too much attention to, is the depth gauge. The best way to explain this, if you've ever used a hand plane, in the old timber hand plane, you sort of picture it like that and it's carving out the wood. So essentially as you sharpen your chain, the cutter actually gets lower as it goes down, and then the depth gauge actually will sit higher than the blade. And what that does, adjusting this, is adjusting how much timber you're actually removing with each cutter. So if you take too much off it, it's going to be very, very hard to, if it was a hand plane, you had the blade sticking out a long way, it would be very hard to push. The chainsaw is going to do the same things. It's going to make your chain work very hard. It's going to be very grabby in the cut. It's going to probably pull the saw into the bump spikes and start to bog down and stall the saw. So when that's set just right, it's just like when you set a hand plane just right, you get those nice spirally chips. When that's set just right, it's the same thing, and seeing that height right in there. A bit of an exploded picture of that is to explain it like that. So what we're measuring is the distance between here and here is how much timber is actually being removed. If you take that off, obviously you've got all that timber trying to be cut out, and that's when it starts to be very aggressive on the saw, load up the saw, dropping engine RPMs, overheating, putting pressure on the heel of the saw, of the cutter, all those things, and essentially it's not going to cut effectively. It's going to be very hard to cut. But yeah, when set just right, you'll find that it works a lot better. So it's matching those two. Whether you do it with a depth gauge tool or the 2-in-1, still 2-in-1 file would do it at the same time as you're doing your cutting edge. It'll also do your depth gauge at the same time. But as I just said, if that's taken down very low, it sort of hammers that tooth like that and puts a lot more, if you sort of image it doing that, it puts a lot more pressure on the heel of the cutter. And you'll see that burr up on the back of there. It also puts a lot more pressure on your bar, so you're going to wear your rails out and things like that. But once you understand what you're trying to achieve in the shape of this, so you've got a little bit of angle under your top plate, you've got that half moon shape in there, not too deep in the gullet, and like I say, your working corner, that is nice and square on the point. If it's rounded, you need to sharpen it back till it's square again. There's no real rule of thumb of 2 swipes or 3 swipes. It's a matter of how many swipes it takes to get that back to being a square working corner again, and maintaining that nice half moon shape in there, and matching your depth gauge to suit the cutter. Hope the information helps. Thank you for watching. Cheers, guys.